नमस्कार आप सभी को आयुष दर्पण के इस लगातार चल रहे कार्यक्रम में अभी हमारे साथ बालाकृष्णन जी जो थे वो केरला से लाइव थे और अब हमारे साथ आ गए हैं प्रोफेसर अमर द्विवेदी। ये आयुष दर्पण की ही एक टीम है जो कभी केरल से आ जाती है तो कभी मुंबई से आ जाती है और आप लोगों का प्यार है कि आप हमारे साथ जुड़ते चले जाते हैं और हमारे स्पीकर्स के एक्सपीरियंस इतने अच्छे हैं कि वो सारे प्रैक्टिकल सेशंस बताते हैं। इस लॉकडाउन में हमने कई लेक्चर्स को अरेंज किया। हम अपने सभी उन स्पीकर्स का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद दिल से अदा करते हैं जो निस्वार्थ रूप से हमसे जुड़ते हैं और छात्र और चिकित्सकों का ज्ञानवर्धन करते हैं। मैं उन चिकित्सकों की बात नहीं करता हूं जो बहुत विद्वान हैं, उन्हें इन वेबिनार्स की शायद कोई ज़रूरत ना हो, लेकिन मुझे ये लगता है कि हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को, और चूंकि मैं एक एकेडमिक सेक्टर से जुड़ा हुआ हूं, जो वर्तमान में आयुर्वेदिक कॉलेजों की स्थिति है उसमें इन इतनी बड़ी फैकल्टीज़ को किसी एक मंच पर ला करके उनके लेक्चर्स से उनको इंट्रोड्यूस कराना ये इतना आसान नहीं होता कि ये सभी लोग बहुत व्यस्त हैं। इनके पास इतना समय नहीं है कि वो मुंबई से देहरादून आएँ और किसी यूनिवर्सिटी में लेक्चर दें, और हमने एक प्लेटफॉर्म प्रोवाइड किया है। इसीलिए हम उन विशेषज्ञों और उन विद्वानों को कहते हैं कि आप इन वेबिनार्स को महत्व तो ना दीजिए, लेकिन हमारे जो चिकित्सक हैं, हमारे जो जो प्रैक्टिशनर्स हैं, हमारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं, उनके लिए ये वेबिनार चलते रहने चाहिए और ये बहुत अच्छी चीज़ है। तो ऐसे ही हमारे आज एक्सपर्ट प्रोफेसर अमर द्विवेदी जिन्होंने जिनके साथ एक बहुत बड़ा मेगा वेबिनार प्रोक्टोलॉजी पे होने जा रहा है जून में, जिसके प्रोसेस रिलीज हो चुके हैं। थोड़े ही समय बाद यू विल रिसीव द डिटेल्स as well as all the informations regarding this, and definitely that will be a very practical webinar on the proctology. So many expert speakers are Dr. Professor Amar, they are approaching to me that I am also interested to be a part of that, but I say that no, that is already planned, we can take you on the next time. So I am thankful to you for planning such a good and very practical webinar. I am getting so many good responses from the participants. So I welcome to you Professor Amar Dwivedi. Already I have introduced the Professor Amar Dwivedi. He is a very practical person who having a very rich knowledge of the Ayurvedic surgery, and is MS in Ayurveda and Vice Principal and Administrator and Professor and Head Department of Surgery, School of Ayurveda, DY Patil University, Navi Mumbai. So, Mayur Pavakarji, good morning to you also. I never forget you during the DY Patil University visit. You have introduced me very well and you have coordinated the program very well. So, I'm thankful to you also for joining this session. And today's topic is Rakta Mokshana. As there are so many expert speakers like Ram Das Awad also explained the Rakta Mokshana, as well as the VC Post also explained this topic. So my dear participants, this is a very important topic, as you already experienced that so many expert speakers are enlightening your knowledge on this topic. So now today Professor Amar Dwivedi is explaining the ancient bloodletting techniques, that is Rakta Mokshan, live from Mumbai. So I am just, without wasting time, I am calling to Professor Amar Dwivedi for his presentation, and I am unmuting the mic of all other participants and only unmute the mic of Professor Amar Dwivedi for his presentation. Thank you, sir.
Namaste, very good morning, sir, and a very warm welcome to all the participants who are attending this webinar today. And once again, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Naveen Joshi ji, my brotherly friend, who has given me this opportunity second time to share my views on his very esteemed web portal, that is Ayush Darpan. I am very happy to know that Ayush Darpan viewership is reached above 50,000 worldwide. So definitely, sir, you are doing a great work to spread the knowledge of Ayurveda all over the world. And my today's topic is, as you have said earlier, that it is on Rakta Mokshan, the basic ancient bloodletting techniques described and mentioned in the Ayurvedic text. My dear friends, let me admit at the very beginning that many legendary speakers, as Dr. Naveen Joshi has said, like Dr. Ramdas Awad sir, has already shared his insight on this topic. And in fact, I ought to have attended his lecture in the last week, which was amazing lecture. I mean, he has explained the applied part of bloodletting wonderfully. He has demonstrated the procedure by live video sharing, and I may not reach to their level because they are the brightest star in the galaxy of Ayurveda. But still, moreover, I would share my best to explain and cover these ancient bloodletting techniques. Now, before starting the lecture, I feel it necessary to have a brief review about the basic principles of Ayurveda, the concept of pathogenesis, and the concept of treatment, because this is important for the orientation purpose. So, what is the basic principle of Ayurveda? In simple way, we can say that our body is formed by the dosha dhatu and mala. It is said dosha dhatu malam mulam hi sariram. That means the every cell is constituted by these three elements, and out of these three doshas, that is vata, pitta, and kapha, are considered more important as they form a basis in the nourishment and development of the body. So this is the brief about the basic principle of Ayurveda. Directly coming to the concept of pathogenesis. So whenever there is a disequilibrium of dosha, dhatu, and mala, to be specific, doshas occurring in the body, it directly affects the health, and thus the pathogenesis is introduced. So this is about the concept of pathology. Now coming to the treatment part. Well, the Ayurvedic concept of treatment is categorized into Shaman Chikitsa and Shodhan Chikitsa. Now, what is Shaman Chikitsa? Shaman Chikitsa is nothing but giving internal medicine, the rasa aushadhi and the herbal preparation to pacify these mildly or moderately vitiated doshas. That is the Shaman Chikitsa, the internal medicine or the palliative medicine, aushadhi chikitsa. The other part is the Shodhan Chikitsa, which is, we can name it as a elimination therapy. In if the doshas are extremely vitiated, and if the doshas are deeply situated in the body, if the disease is very chronic, in chronic condition, we are supposed to remove these doshas, vitiated doshas from the body, or the expulsion of doshas. That is called as the Shodhan Chikitsa. It is commonly termed and known as the Panchakarma therapy or the purificatory procedure. Now we are coming to the purificatory procedure directly. Now this purificatory procedure or the Shodhan Chikitsa is given utmost important in the management part in Ayurveda, because it is said that if the disease is very chronic, you have to remove the doshas from the body, and then it will be followed by the Shaman Chikitsa. So that is why it is very important to know about the Shodhan Chikitsa. Now, when we talk about the Shodhan Chikitsa or the Panchakarma therapy, we all know that there are 5 different modalities by which you can remove these doshas from the body, which is, to name them, it is Vaman, Virechan, Basti, Nasya, and Rakta Mokshan. Vaman, we all know it is simple induced emesis, which is done for the predominance of kapha dosha. Then the Virechan, which is induced purgation for the vitiation of to removal pitta vitiated condition. Then Basti is medicated enema. Nasya is a trans-anal medication to be given for the expulsion of doshas from the upper respiratory and head region and neck region. And then finally coming to the Rakta Mokshan part. And Rakta Mokshan is nothing but expulsion or removal of blood from the body, and that is specific for the therapeutic purpose. So now we will start with the presentation. Give me a 1 second. I will directly go to my presentation. So hope you all are able to see this slide now. With the limited resources, I could try to present this this in front of you. And the today's topic we have discussed about the basic principles of Ayurveda. We have discussed about the various Shodhan Chikitsa modalities, and coming to the Rakta Mokshan part here. And as I have already defined, expulsion or removal of blood, vitiated blood from the body, is known as Rakta Mokshan. and this can be done by various modalities such as Shringa, Alabu, Jaloka, Prachan Karma, Siraveda, and those sort of things. And as I already said, that Rakta Mokshan among all these purificatory procedures are given more utmost importance because of the reason that it is said that with the help of Rakta Mokshan, we can actually take out all the three doshas at a time. That is why it is more important. And it is, as we know, that in Kaya Chikitsa, Basti is the main treatment modality, whereas for the stream of Shalya Tantra, we consider Rakta Mokshan as the half of the treatment in the treatment of the condition. So that is why Rakta Mokshan is very important. If we can brief about the effect of Rakta Mokshan. So the principle is like we all know that Rakta, that is the blood, being the vehicle to carry and transport the absorbed nutrients, oxygen, metabolites from place to place. So correction of the any abnormality in the blood by taking it out resolves a number of problems. So as I already said that it is mentioned in the Sushrut Samhita that this is the only therapy which help in eliminating all the three vitiated doshas, that is Vata, Pitta and Kapha at a time. He further advocates that if all the fivefold purificatory procedure cannot be performed due to lack of time, then even Rakta Mokshan can serve the purpose. Now, this is very important applied part of Rakta Mokshan. We all know that for to get a complete detoxification or purification, that is from the Vaman to the Rakta Mokshan, you will require minimum of 3 months time, because you know that if you start Vaman Karma, you have to take Gruta. I mean, you have to consume Gruta for 3 to 5 days to get adequate symptom of Snehan. Then they 2 days break for the Snehan Svedan, and then the main procedure will be done. And after Vaman Karma, again there will be Sansarjan Kram, and then thereafter 7 days interval, you will have to go for the Virechan Karma. Likewise, you will require minimum of 3 month time to get all the 5 Panchakarma procedures done. So what Sushruta says that if it is not possible to have all these 5 procedures done, you can simply go with the Rakta Mokshan, and that will serve the purpose. Now, when we are coming to Rakta Mokshan, we should know the various types of Rakta Mokshan. As the title itself says that we are going to discuss and explore about the various ancient bloodletting techniques. So in Ayurveda, Rakta Mokshan is actually categorized again into two. One is the Sashastra Rakta Mokshan and the other is Ashastra Rakta Mokshan. Now, Sashastra Rakta Mokshan means removal of blood with the help of sharp instrument, cutting instrument. And then Ashastra Rakta Mokshan is without any cutting instrument. So it is very simple that the bloodletting can be done with the help of the surgical cutting instruments or without the surgical instrument. Now, what are the Swashastra and Ashastra Rakta Mokshan modalities? In Swashastra Rakta Mokshan, there are 4 different types by which you can remove the blood. The one is Prachana Karma, means bloodletting through multiple incision. Alabu is vacuum extraction by using bottle guard. Shringa is sucking by mouth through animal horn, and Siraved, we all know it is venipuncture. So these are the 4 different modalities by which you can remove the blood with the where you are taking the help of the surgical instrument. So they are into the Sashastra Rakta Mokshan. Now coming to the Ashastra Rakta Mokshan, as in this type the vitiated blood is taken out or removed only by means of non-surgical intervention known as leech application or Jalokavacharan. So this is the only type where you are not using any instrument for bloodletting. So after knowing the different types of bloodletting therapies, we will elaborate each of them now. So the first type of Sashastra Rakta Mokshan we have discussed is about Prachan Karma. So we will start with the Prachan Karma. See, basically this Prachan karma or the bloodletting with the help of multiple incision is indicated in the predominance of Pitta and little bit of Kapha. So when there is a need to remove blood in the condition which is created by the Visheshan of Pitta, Rakta and blood and Kapha to some extent, you can opt for this Prachan karma type of Rakta mokshan or bloodletting. In this procedure, without injuring the joint capsule, tendon, bone, and marmasthanas, that is the vital points, the multiple incisions are made with the help of a specially designed instrument. In Ayurveda, it is named as Utpal Patra Shastra, which is nothing but simple surgical blade or scalp blade. So when you are removing blood with the help of multiple incision made by this surgical blade, parallel to the course of the local blood vessel at the desired area, it is called Prachan Karma. Now, here I stress upon the word parallel to the course of local blood vessel, which is very important. You have to follow the lines of Langerhans. One should not take an horizontal cut on the skin, because the blood vessels run vertically, and if you cut it horizontally, there is always chance that you may damage the major blood vessels. So that is not required. So one should do the bloodletting vertically parallel to the course of local blood vessel at the desired site. And after the desired blood oozes out or expelled by the incision made, the dressing is done with the aseptic precaution. Now here one should remember that after you take multiple incisions, definitely immediately after that the blood oozes out, and there is a property of blood. It is known as Raktam Swayam Eva Avatistati, means after a desired set time, the blood will achieve hemostasis on its own, and that is the time where we can consider that procedure is done. At that time, you can clean the blood and you can sprinkle the certain powders of herbal preparation like turmeric or lodra, and then you can perform a simple bandaging. So that is what about the Prachan karma. Now we will discuss about the various indications of this Prachan karma. Sushruta has specially mentioned certain conditions where Prachan karma is more useful considering the other types. Which are these conditions? Paraphimosis, cellulitis, localized accumulation of fluid or blood under the skin or subcutaneous tissue, then hematoma, early stage of filariasis, and very importantly, after snake, scorpion, or insect bite. So this is the indication where we should think of performing bloodletting with the help of multiple incision. To discuss these conditions, we all know that paraphimosis is a condition where there is a submucosal accumulations of uh, fluid, or the it is collection of fluid submucosally. In that condition, even now the modern people perform this sort of taking multiple incision so that the accumulated fluid will come out. That is the wisdom of the Ayurvedic Maharshis, that in those days they have indicated that treatment of paraphimosis can be done with the help of Prachan karma. Next is about hematoma. We all know there also, if we don't remove the blood, it get clotted and there will be a permanent swelling over that area, which requires a proper surgery later on, or it may get infected. So in hematoma also, you can perform Rakta mokshan with the help of Prachan karma, which is more useful than the other procedures. Now about the filariasis, I would only say that in filariasis there is definite involvement of lymphatic system. So when we take multiple incision, it definitely improves the lymphatic circulation, and this way it may we can hypothesize that it may be useful in the early stage of filariasis. Moving further, indication in the snake bite or the scorpion bite, this is very clear. Even nowadays, after the snake bite, the first aid treatment is you have to make a tight tourniquet bandaging above the site of the snake bite, and then you have to take multiple incisions. This will help in removal of the poisonous material venom from that site, and that is very useful and the first aid treatment in the snake, scorpion, or insect bite. Moving further, as I have said, we will discuss about the mechanism of action of these various ancient techniques. So, what is the principle of this Prachan Karma? We all know that following the multiple incisions, the vitiated blood and accumulated doshas comes out of the body. So, the main purpose of Prachan Karma or the multiple incision is to remove local pathology and improve the circulation. So this was all about the Prachan Karma, and there is a image I have taken long back. This is the picture you will find after the Prachan Karma. Immediately the blood oozes out from the desired area. This is about the Prachan Karma. Moving further to next type, which is very interesting, Rakta Mokshan by the Alabu Yantra. Now, if I say Rakta Mokshan with the help of Alabu Yantra, we all know that this is indicated when there is predominance of Kapha dosha. Now we are coming dosha wise choice of treatment. So for Kapha dosha's condition where you want to remove blood, you have to you are having this wonderful modalities known as Alabu Yantra. Now what is Alabu Yantra? Alabu Yantra, there are two terms. Yantra is the instrument, Alabu is a common vegetable origin material. We commonly call in English it is called as bottle gourd, and in local language we know it as a dudhi, or the lauki is the local name in India. So with the help of this bottle gourd, when the instrument is prepared and it is used for the bloodletting, it is Rakta Mokshan by Alabu Yantra. So for the preparation of Alabu, again it is very interesting that you have to take a medium size bottle gourd, and then you have to allow it to dry up completely in the hot sun. This takes around 1 month time in the summer season, and after it is completely dried up, you have to make a 2-inch size or a big coin shape round hole is made at its bottom, and all the internal dried up fibers, or what we call majja part or the tantumay part, the dried part, you have to take out, and after removal of those fibrous materials inside, you have to remove them very skillfully again, and then one shall get a hollow container like instrument, and that is called as Alabu Yantra. So after knowing the preparation of Alabu, one should know about the actual procedure of Rakta Mokshan with the help of this wonderful instrument. Firstly, small incision is taken on the skin, that is on the desired side, and thereafter a small piece of leaf, that is patta, the small piece of leaf is placed by the side of the incision. You have to take an incision, and immediately adjacent to it you have to place this small leaf, and thereafter a candle or a diya is enlightened and kept over this leaf. So on that leaf you have to place this candle and enlighten it, and this candle is covered with help of dried bottle gourd container having opening at its bottom. And once you cover this candle, within a few seconds the flame get extinguished, and the patient notices as if the skin is being squeezed into the space of Alabu Yantra. And this is because the pressure created in the empty space of the bottle gourd, which leads to stretching of the area where the incision was made and resulting into the oozing of blood. So this is about the mechanism how this Alabu Yantra works. Now discussing about the principles of Alabu Yantra. Now Alabu Yantra works on the Bale jars principle. This is very interesting. Those who want to exactly know Bale jar principle, they can Google this term, Bale jars principle, which states that 1/5 of the atmospheric air contains oxygen. Okay, 1/5 of the atmospheric air contains oxygen, and when it is consumed by the flame or candle within the container, then after consumption of oxygen, there will be 1/5 vacuum creation. So 1/5 vacuum will be created. Thus, the vacuum is likely to be occupied by whatever fluid or the material available at its bottom. That is the principle of Alabu Yantra. Now, as you see, it is very difficult to prepare such Alabu Yantra, dry up and make it a container sort of thing. So, is there any alternative device for this? I say yes. There is a definite, you can alternate the Alabu with the help of instrument, and to substitute this, one can use actually a simple wide mouth 100 ml टी ग्लास, चाय की जो कांच की ग्लास होती है, that you can use and make as a substitute of Alabu Yantra. And then you have to give a small cut on the skin. You have to place a burning spirit swab on the small piece of leaf and immediately cover the flame with this glass. Immediately in the few seconds, the flame will be extinguished. The skin bulges out in the glass, that can be seen from outside actually. The skin bulges out in the glass from its center where the incision is made, and then blood gushers out like a fountain. So this is about the modified Alabu Yantra, I can say. This we have already discussed. These are the images. This is the actual bottle guard placed in a plate or dish, and after the drying up, the second image you can see, that is the actual way you can prepare the Alabu Yantra, and the other things are, you can see the substitute to this Alabu Yantra type of Rakta Mokshan. Moving further to the third type now, and it is Rakta Mokshan with the help of Shrunga Yantra. Now, the meaning of Shrunga is animal horn. So, it is clear that Shringa Yantra is a very simple instrument made up of cow's horn or bull's horn with both of its end open. This is very important. In Alabu Yantra, there was only one opening at the bottom, whereas in Shringa Yantra, it will be like a funnel where you will have two openings on the top and at the bottom. Now, this is indicated again when there is a predominance of Vata dosha. I am telling you, these different ancient techniques are made for a definite cause. So, if you select the type of Rakta Mokshan, you have to think about the predominance of the doshas in that particular person. So here, if the target is vitiated Vata dosha, this is indicated in the bloodletting technique. So you can think that the Shringa type of Rakta Mokshan is indicated when there is a predominance of Vata dosha. Now, what is the procedure of doing Rakta Mokshan with the help of Shringa Yantra? It is very interesting. Again, firstly, 2-3 small incisions are taken at the desired site with the help of a sterile surgical blade. Thereafter, a wide base of a horn is placed on the designated site where the incision are made, and the physician hold the narrow end. So the broader end is placed at the area where the incision is made, and the smaller opening is with the physician. The base must be exactly fit the site of Rakta Mokshan. That is very important. The base of Shringa must be so nicely cut that the air or blood will never leak out while the physician sucks the blood. This is very important part. Now, the most convenient method is to suck the air vigorously at a single stream and immediately close the narrow mouth end with the help of thumb. With this, vacuum is definitely created within the horn and the blood rushes out in jets from the incision site. This is all about the way you can do the Rakta Mokshan with the help of Shringa Yantra, and after removal of desired blood, the light bandaging is done to arrest the bleeding and the excessive bleeding. Now again, one will feel that this is very unacceptable way of doing Rakta Mokshan, because nobody will go and touch the shringa. There is a stigma, and then to suck the blood with the help of mouth through this horn is not acceptable to all. So is there any modified device? Yes. See the, or how the alter, there is always innovation in the technology without disturbing the principle of the treatment. So here actually keeping the principle of vacuum extraction in the Shringa Yantra. It is very clear. Please note it, make attention to this. Keeping the principle of vacuum extraction in the Shringa Yantra, one can use similar instrument which is commonly known as a breast pump or the milk expressor. And in this, instead of Shringa Yantra, the expression or removal of blood is done with the help of this expressor. So this will definitely make the procedure very smooth and acceptable. Now we will move further. Well, we have discussed about the Shringa Yantra, and this is the actual picture of Shringa Yantra. You can think, I mean, this was published long back, around 15 years back. I have collected this instrument from a tribal area, and then I have prepared this presentation those days. You can see in the upper image there is a horn having two openings. The broader opening is kept in the area where the incision is made, and the physician is expected to suck the blood in one stream from the other end. So this is about the Shringa Yantra we have discussed. Coming well to the most acceptable and practiced way of bloodletting, and that is the Shira Vedhan. This is the last but most important type of Rakta Mokshan in the Sashastra category. We will discuss it little, elaborate this wonderfully. I would try to make it very simple to you. This can be termed as venipuncture, we all know, and is one of the easiest method of Rakta Mokshan. It is most effective also and most practiced way also. Now, when we discuss about the Stira Vedan, it is written in the text that Stira Vedan is the utmost important type of Rakta Mokshan that will not go in details. Well, what the things we need to know about Rakta Mokshan with the help of venipuncture? One should know about the SOPs of Stira Vedan. That is the Purva Karma, Pradhan Karma, and Paschat Karma. You should know about the indications. You should know about the contraindications. You should know about the procedure done. Then you should know about the post-operative care. That is all we will discuss today. Now, to coming directly to the Purva Karma of Stira Veda, it is again very important that one should have informed written consent before doing Stira Vedan Chikitsa. The same thing I have stressed while giving my lecture on heat burn therapy the other day, that one should take a consent from the patient before doing heat burn therapy. Same way, if you are removing a blood through the vein, that is through the venesection or the Stira Vedan Chikitsa, one should always take written informed consent of the patient. This is important for medico-legal aspect. After that, first step is to select the site from where you want to remove blood. Then you have to advise patient to have mild ahar, I mean laghu ahar, like gruel or yavagu or khichdi sort of thing. So while performing Tiraveda Chikitsa, you should not make it empty stomach. Patient is advised to take laghu ahar. Then the site from where you are going to remove blood, there should be mild snehan and swedan, that is fomentation and oleation of the part is done. Most important part is Before performing the Siravedhan Raktamokshan, one should rule out various coagulatory disorders like factor X or it and hemophilia sort of condition. Then if the patient is very anemic, I mean, if the hemoglobin is below 5, one should not perform Siravedhan. Then you should rule out diabetes, hepatitis, HIV, and other viral conditions. So this is very important. And next is you should know the position for bloodletting through venesection. Patient is given either supine position or slight propped up position is preferred. And before doing the Siravedhan, as a standard protocol in Ayurveda, we always start with Mangal Swasti Vachan. This is nothing but prayer performed just to have a positive vibes, and that will make the patient more relaxed and more convenient. So this, so after the Mangal Swasti Vachan, you are ready to perform venipuncture. Now vein is selected for puncture. A tourniquet is applied a little above this side. This should help in making the vein prominent, and this is released once the venipuncture is done. So this is all about the Purva Karma. Now moving further to the suitable season for Siravedhan. So it is also mentioned in Ayurvedic text that Siravedhan, that is bloodletting with the help of venesection, one should perform preferably in Sharad Ritu. That is in June, July, that month you can advise the patient to undergo Siravedhan Chikitsa, because in that season or that Ritu, Pitta is extremely vitiated. Now moving further to indications of Siravedhan, again, which are the conditions where Siravedhan gives effective results. It is useful in various skin disorders like eruptions, boils, inflammation, cellulitis, various blood-borne diseases, that is Rakta Roga, such as Visarpa, Pliha, Vidradhi, that is abscess, Kushtha, that is leprosy or leukoderma, you can consider Gulma, then Vyanga, Tilakalak, mole, warts, all these growth, hypergrowth, abnormal growth conditions, one can use Stiraveda as a treatment modality. It is clinically seen that Siravedhan is also useful in hypertension, eczema, psoriasis, obesity management, toxic condition, various vascular conditions, various non-healing ulcers, to treatment of various non-healing ulcers, filariasis. So clinically, we just give a minute. Sorry, there was a sorry. We'll continue with it. So clinically, Siravedhan is effective in treatment of hypertension, eczema, psoriasis, obesity, toxemia, various vascular disorders, non-healing ulcers, filariasis. Further, I would quote here that if a person cannot follow the routine standard protocol of bloodletting through Siravedhan, even if he donates his blood, he will be definitely benefited to some extent. So this is all about the indication. Coming further, one should know about contraindications of Siravedhan. I always stress upon this point. Knowing the indication is important again, but knowing that where you should not do the procedure or surgery is more important. So what are the conditions where it is contraindicated? So here it is Bala, Vruddha, Rukshak, Shatak, Sheena, Krisa. We can name it like a very young boy or children, very old age person, then extremely weak person, undernourished person, debilitated patient, timid person. Parishranta means if the person is highly exhausted. Stri Karshit is a condition, contraindication, means excessive sex indulgence. And more important clinically again is one should not perform Sira Ved immediately after Vaman, Virechan and Basti Karmam. See, if you think it superficially, it is very clear all these conditions, the contraindications mentioned are basically conditioned due to already vitiated Vata. And after Sira Veda, there is a definite Vata Prakop because of removal of Tridoshas. So, in all conditions, when there is already Vata Prakop or vitiation of Vata, one should not do Sira Veda type of Rakta Mokshan. And then the other contraindications are, of course, insomnia, that is sleepless condition, Garbhini, that is pregnant woman, impotent person, severely anemic patient, hemophilic patient. And again, further, one should not do Sira Veda in the patient who are suffering from cough, breathlessness, muscular wasting, fever, convulsive disorders, paralysis, giddiness, and the patients who are again fasting or thirsty. So these are the conditions one should always consider and not do Sira Vedhan in those patients. Moving further to the material used for Sira Vedhan. Now here we are first discussing about the material mentioned in the text. There are four different materials mentioned in the text. One is Brihimukhi Shastra, other is Kutharika, other is Vetaspatra, and last one is the Ara Shastra. These are the various material which can be used for expulsion or removal of blood depending on the organ from where you are going to remove blood. Now, what is Brihimukhi Shastra? It is very interesting that it is nothing. Actually, it is a trocar and cannula sort of thing. In modern term, the vein flow which we, the catheter which we use having needle and cannula into it, that is the exact Brihimukh Shastra desired in this context. So these vein flow, intracath or scalp vein or simple 18 to 20 number of needle, disposable needle can be used for the purpose. And in day-to-day practice, people are using this scalp vein of number 18 or number 20 for this purpose. Moving further to the main procedure now. Now again, please give attention to this. After applying the tourniquet, prominent vein is selected and punctured with the instrument, that is the scalp vein having needle, and fixed with the sticking. BP cuff can be applied on the arm little above, and the standard pressure maintained is 80 mmMg, which will work as a tourniquet also. Blood immediately starts flowing out the cannula, which is collected in the measuring pot. Immediately, as soon as you puncture the needle, the blood will come out and flow through the cannula, and it is collected in a nearby measuring pot or a kidney tray. After a certain time, you will see that bloodletting slows down and spontaneously arrest of hemorrhage takes place. Preferably, I would say that one can remove around 80 to 120 ml of blood in one sitting. What is the exact quantity? Students, the amount mentioned is 13.5 pearl. Now here, one pearl is equal to 50 gram. So maximum amount removed maybe around 750 ml. That is equivalent to 2 pint of blood. And practically also at one particular time, maximum 2 pint of blood are taken in the blood donation procedure also. So that is the maximum amount, but the preferable amount is about 80 ml to 120 ml of blood. Now we will discuss about the Paschat Karma. That is also very important. After the desired bloodletting is done, scalp vein is gently removed, and then pressure is applied with the cotton swab, and few people are also sprinkling here the powder of Haridra and Lodra which help in the hemostasis purpose, and then dressing is done. And after the Siravedhan is done, patient is offered to have a light diet and to follow Sansarjan Kram. This is again very important. And if immediately after the bloodletting patient is complaining of giddiness or weakness, you can offer sweet lime water or glucose water or even tomato soup or some amla ras juice can be given, that is the orange juice and all. So that is all about the Paschat Karma. At the bottom of the slide, you can see the subheading as rule of selection of site. This is again very important. The Acharya Sushruta has given two different prospect of selection of site. One theory says that Siravedhan is to be performed from the peripheral or the nearby vein. This is very interesting. That for the local pathology, you can select a blood vessel or the superficial vein around that particular site, peripheral area or the nearby area. And then for the systemic intention, if you are performing bloodletting for Sarvadehic purpose, you can do it either by the cubital vein or by the jugular vein or by the saphenous vein. Cubital vein is the most preferred site where you can do the Rakta Mokshan with the help of Siraved. Now again, after knowing indication, contraindication and standard SOP, one should know what are the causes of failure of Siraved. This is again very interesting. The Sushruta has even mentioned when you will actually fail to remove blood from the Siras, and the conditions are faulty technique, collapse of vein due to shock condition, low blood pressure, very obese person, patient who is very anxious or comprehensive, over exertion, weakness. Most important, we have seen dehydration as one of the cause. Fever is one of the cause. Loosening of tourniquet is again a cause. Blunt instrument can be a cause, and Siraved without Snehan Svedan. So these are all are the factors which can result in inadequate bloodletting or failure of bloodletting. Basically, these are categorized, the causes or the factors are categorized as Shastra dosh, Rogi dosh, Yantra dosh, Sira dosh, and Vaidya dosh. So these are the factors responsible for failure of Siraved. Now coming to the sign of proper Siravedha, the adequate sign of proper bloodletting, and that is Laghavam Vedana Shanti Vyadhi Veg Parikshaya Mana Prasadashcheti, and two more symptoms are Raktam Swayam Eva Avatishtite and removal of coming out the Shuddha or fresh blood from the site. So these are the signs by which you will come to know that you have done the bloodletting properly. Moving further, this is the last and most important part, that one should know the signs of excessive blood loss, because many a times if you atrogenically remove the excessive amount of blood, what can be the result? That is mentioned in this slide, that there are total 12 signs and symptoms of excessive blood loss, which includes headache, that and warmth of head, then blurring of vision, glaucoma formation, then refraction errors, then dhatukshaya, akshepak, daha, pakshaghat, hikka, swasa, anemia, that is pandurog, and even if it can turn into havoc condition known as, it can turn into a fatal condition. So that is all about the Siravedhan Chikitsa. These are the images by which you are here. You can see removal of blood from the cubital vein. Now coming to the last part of the presentation, and we have discussed elaborately about the Sashastra Rakta Mokshan till now. Now we are coming to the Rakta Mokshan of Ashastra method, that is where you are not using any instrument for bloodletting, but bloodletting is done with the help of leech, and that is called as Ashastra Rakta Mokshan. Sushruta has actually mentioned different types of Jaloka, basically categorized into poisonous and non-poisonous type. In practical way, you can categorize as the medicinal leeches and non-medicinal leeches. That is how you can go ahead with the types of Rakta Mokshan. So we are using the medicinal type of leech, commonly known as Hirido medicinalis. Uh, Sushruth has even mentioned about how you will identify the non-poisonous leeches. That is more of the theoretical part. We will not go into detail. They are explaining the characters of leeches. To know about the leeches further, we all know that it is available throughout Europe and Asia. And most important in this slide, the conservation status, if you say it is near threatening condition. So you have to actually preserve the leeches. More to knowing more about leeches here in this slide, I would only say that uh, leeches are like slugs and they are hermaphrodite. This is very important. What is hermaphrodite? Means in one species they have both the male and female character in it. Means the both male and female characters are present in a single leaf. That is hermaphrodite. Moving further, I mean, there was a lot of research going on leech therapy, and even in Maharashtra, one of my friend from I think Bhaviskar Rao, he is doing PhD on it. The Dr. Sharma is doing a lot of work in Delhi. So I will not go into details. We'll directly go to the SOP of bloodletting. So what is required for leech therapy? One should have a separate section where you are performing leech therapy. You should have a proper bed where you can allow the patient to rest and you can perform the bloodletting. Then you should have a very important is the third point, that you should have a proper trolley having the dressing material, BP instrument, and emergency medicine like atropine, hydrocortisone, adrenaline, ethamsilate, avil, IV fluids, etc. This is very important practically, because as we have discussed that leeches are of the poisonous character also, and many people may develop the allergic reaction, or even the anaphylactic reaction can be seen in few patients. So if you are you are bad luck, you may have the patient who can go across such condition when there is a anaphylactic reaction. To manage those, you need to prepare your trolley with such emergency medicine like atropine, which is cardioprotective, hydrocortisone, which is a steroid sort of thing, which combat the allergic reaction, adrenaline for the cardiotonic cardiovascular maintenance. Then you need a ethamsilate for stop the bloodletting. You must have the anti-allergic drug like Avil, and for the shock condition, the best treatment is to have a fast fluid replacement. For that, you need to keep ready various IV fluids like dextrose, normal saline, ringer lactate sort of thing. So that is all about the preparation part. About Purva Karma, now Purva Karma is divided into preparation of patient and preparation of leech. For preparation of patient, it is almost same as that of Stira Vedan, that you have to select the site, give Laghu Ahar, you have to rule out the coagulatory conditions. Most important here in Stira Ved, we have said that before Stira Vedan, you have to do mild fomentation and oleation. That is, Snehan Svedan is indicated pre-operatively in Stira Vedan. Whereas if you are aiming to perform Rakta Mokshan with the help of leeches, you should not use any sort of oil preparation. So the absolute contraindication is Snehan. One should not do Snehan at the site, otherwise leeches will not catch at that particular site. And for the cleaning purpose, you can always use simple tap water, I prefer. Now, when I say simple tap water, as I said earlier, that if you say your resident to clean the site pre-operatively, they will usually use spirit gauze or the turmeric sort of thing, or the Savalum sort of disinfectant to clean the area. But all these things are contraindicated if you are using leech for the bloodletting therapy. So one should not apply spirit gauze or turmeric to clean the area in any condition. And then we can go ahead with the preparation of Jaloka. We all know that Jaloka are kept in separate tanks nowadays, and Jaloka tank we say, and then they are little sluggish in nature. So to activate those leeches, it is indicated that fine turmeric or triphala powder is mixed in the ball where the water is kept, and then you have to put these leeches into that ball, and then immediately once they are dipped into the turmeric mixed water, immediately leeches become highly active and runs all around the tray immediately after sprinkling this powder. So this is how you will make the leech ready for the application. Pradhan karma, we all know it is not as we have discussed that it is the easiest method. The desired site is clean, then the leech is held at its neck with the finger and applied directly to the skin, and usually 5 to 10 leeches are applied. I recommend to not to do one leech application. At least 5 to 10 leeches are applied at a time depending upon the necessity. And once leeches start sucking the blood, they are covered with wet gauze and cold water is poured on them from above time to time, so as to make leech comfortable during this sucking. Now in this there are a lot of innovation. Few people take 20 ml syringe or enema syringe, and they cut the nozzle part and they put the leeches into that funnel shape of syringe, and that syringe is actually placed on the side, and indirectly all the leeches are targeted at that particular site, and they start sucking the blood from that particular site. So that can be a modified way of using leeches. If leech do not catch the site by its own, in such condition a small prick induced bleeding may be required, so as to facilitate the sucking procedure. The leech, when one starts sucking the blood, elevates its neck and fixes its head to the supporting point of the skin. One can actually observe the wave like movement indicating sucking of blood. When the leech become fully satisfied, this is again applied part. One should not remove the leeches forcefully. When the leech becomes fully satisfied with its food, it leaves off the skin of the patient and drop itself down. That is the beauty of the leech therapy. If not, I mean, in certain condition, if leech are not moving away, then the patient may feel itching sensation, which indicates impure blood from that spot is no more available for the leech. In such case, a little turmeric powder or a salt is placed on the sucking point of the leech, and immediately the leech takes away its mouth from that point. The precaution to be taken is one should not apply leeches to major veins like femoral or jugular vein, and to the delicate parts like breast, penis, and eyelid. This is very important. One should not apply leeches to these delicate parts of the body. And then after the leeches are used, as we have discussed, that they are into near to threatening condition, so we should not actually kill the leeches, but we can preserve them in the separate jar, make them fasting for 7 days, and then we can reuse them. And most important practical point is each leech sucks around 6 to 10 ml of blood at one application. Paschat karma, again, it is divided into patient care and Jaloka care. For patient care, nothing much is required. You have to clean the area after the Raktamokshan by leech application, and then bandaging is done. In few patients, we have noticed that this oozing out continues for hours together. It do not stop even if after sprinkling the turmeric or lodra powder. So practically in such cases, to stop the bleeding, you have to actually use a material known as tincture benzene. So this tincture benzene contained can be taken on a small piece of cotton, and that can be placed on that particular site from where the oozing is coming out, and it will actually seal the area, and finally blood hemostasis is achieved. Hereafter, after the procedure, if patient is weak and feeling he is feeling giddiness or weakness, you can offer lime water soup or glucose water to him. And most important, patient is allowed to sit for some time before leaving the place to see if there is any untoward effect. Post care of low leech, we all know that we have, for the preservation purpose, you can do post procedure induced emesis to these leeches. So you will put turmeric powder on the mouth of the leech, and immediately after this one may find jets of black sucked blood emitted by the leeches, and after that you have to clean the leech and keep it in a separate container or jar. Coming to the most important part, that is the component of medicinal saliva. I mean, only 2 slides are left now. The component of medicinal saliva, medicinal leech saliva is very important. Lot of research work is done worldwide. In fact, I had published a paper on application of management of diabetic foot ulcer with the help of leech therapy. In that, I have mentioned, this is the screenshot of that paper, and the same is more clear in this slide. These are the content of saliva. The leech saliva contains herodine. We all know that it is an anticoagulant drug like heparin, and it inhibits the blood coagulation by binding to thrombin. It contains scalin, destabilize. These are the enzymes monomerizing activity which dissolves the fibrin and have the thrombolytic effect. Then hirustatin, delin is very important. See, this delin content is actually anti-inflammatory and inhibits trypsin and plasmin. So it is working as that of ceratopeptidase sort of thing. Then it also contains hyaluronidase, which is an enzyme which increases the interstitial viscosity. Now we know about this hyaluronidase. It is a main content of a drug which we are using to facilitate the absorptions of the fluid. So Hylase is the common brand name of the injection available. So that is also seen found in this saliva. Then tryptase inhibitors are there, aglin is there, factor X inhibitors are there. Then carboxypeptidase A inhibitors are very important, which increase the inflow of the blood at the time. So this means the leech application actually improves the blood circulation as well. And then it also contains histamine like substance, which is having vasodilator, and it increases the inflow of the blood. And there is also anesthetic agent into the saliva, which actually make the procedure painless. These are few images I have collected. Uses in the alopecia condition, fantastic effect. In the lower backache condition, it gives wonderful result. In the eczema condition, leeches give wonderful result. In the abscess or the lymphadenopathy also, you can use leeches. In the non-healing ulcers also, diabetic ulcers, varicose vein ulcer, atherosclerotic ulcers, in all those non-healing ulcer also, leech therapy works as a magical remedy. Coming to the final slide of this presentation, that is utility of leech therapy. We all know that it is used effectively in the management of non-healing ulcer, ulcerative lesion. We have discussed about diabetic ulcer, laprotic wound, as it helps to improve the local blood circulation and releases the congestion. That is very important. It releases the congestion, improves the local blood circulation and promote the healing part also. Then it also relieves the vascular congestion, as discussed earlier, can be effectively used in the conditions like long-standing varicose ulcer, filariasis, and most important, post-operative skin grafting. Now, I will mention here that at my institute in D.Y. Patil, there is a very wonderful department of plastic surgery. So I remember a day when my friend Dr. Abhyankar, who is a very expert plastic surgeon there, he called me up and he asked me to deliver leeches to him. I asked him why he wants leeches. So he said that I have performed a huge skin grafting lesion and I want to apply these leeches to the periphery of the grafting. So I was wondering that even the modern people are using leeches for such a wonderful effect. Then leech is also used in arthritis, so sprain, spasm to relieve the pain, inflammation and discomfort symptomatically. Then it is used in abscess, cellulitis, thrombophlebitis like conditions. Then useful in perianal hematoma. I mean, there is a paper, ongoing paper by one of my students who has submitted to a peer-reviewed journal where we have managed the perianal hematoma exclusively with the use of leech application. Then it is also useful in atherosclerosis of limb as it improves circulation. I remember in my post-graduation days, my HOD Dr. Lavekar used to was using leech siddha tail, Jaloka siddha oil, and there he was using it to treat hyperpigmentation condition. That time I was not knowing, but we have seen the effect, definitely positive effect on hyperpigmentation condition, Jaloka Siddha Gel. Even my guide, Dr. Joshi, he was very fond of using leeches in various conditions. Even we have used leeches in acute surgical indication like appendicite. We have used the Jaloka at the level of McBurney's point. And I remember in those days, I had used these leeches in the appendix. 5 cases we have done. Out of these 3 cases, only with the application of 4 to 5 leeches on the site of McBurney, the pain was reduced. But the remaining 2, one we have to go for the modern conventional treatment part, and for later on we have operated that case. And the one case he left the treatment in between, he has not cooperated for. So I mean, Dr. Joshi was very fond of using Jaloka, and I mean, few naughty students, they used to say Jaloka Joshi. He has given the name Jaloka Joshi. Of course, I have due respect to my teacher, but because he was very fond of using Jaloka in various conditions, people used to say Jaloka Joshi ji. So that is all about Rakta Mokshan, friends. I have tried to explain the various ancient Rakta Mokshan techniques. We have covered the Shira Veda, to the leech therapy and all the non-conventional method of bloodletting also, and hope my presentation have covered this vast topic. And I admit that the topic is more of theoretical purpose, but we have already seen the practical session by Dr. Ramdas Awadji. So I thought of sharing my insight more on the principles of Rakta Mokshan. So with this, I conclude my presentation on Rakta Mokshan, that is ancient bloodletting therapy, and I invite Dr. Naveen Joshi ji to conclude the session.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. So many questions are also coming. So many good comments are also coming. Dr. Monica Patil is telling that very nice presentation and informative sessions. So I'm thankful to you. So a lot of good comments are coming in the Ayush Darpan Journal's Facebook page also. So I'm very much thankful to Professor Amar Dwivedi for his brilliant presentation and the Ayush Darpan Journal's page. Previously, his Agni Karma presentation was also very nice, and this Rakta Mokshana presentation is also very impressive. I am thankful to Professor Amar Dwivedi. So we again come with the new presentations. as well as Vishnu Bhavani is also Dr. Naveen Joshi ji for no sir, I'm not I'm just doing this for propagation of Ayurveda. Just thanks to the speakers who is giving his valuable time in our platform. And I'm again announcing from this platform that please participate in the coming webinar on 7th of the June. That is a mega webinar on Ayurveda in proctology, and that is mainly organized. That is the key mind behind that webinar is Professor Amar Dwivedi. So I'll request to all of you who are watching this program to please kindly join that webinar. And those who want to join the webinar on Facebook, it is totally you can join at Facebook, but if you want to register and want a participant certificate, then you have to fill a Google form. So if you want to join the webinar and learn the knowledge of Ayurveda, this is totally free. You can join on the Facebook. And if you want to, actually the Zoom has certain limitations, and we have also certain limitations that we can't give participants through certificate, those who are watching on the Facebook. So it's by request, humble request, that if you want to
Dr. Joshi, your voice is mute. Dr. Joshi, I think session is over and we'll conclude hereby. Thank you one and all. Namaskar. Have a safe, healthy life. Thank you one and all.